Hi everyone. So let me just check if this is live. Just a second. I hope you all are doing fine. How are you all? Okay, I think this is live now. Yeah, alright. Yes. Okay, so the topic for today is the sense organ ear. Okay, so we'll be discussing about the structure of the ear and the associated parts of the ear. Like there is outer ear, middle ear, as well as inner ear. So you need to know which part of the ear comes specifically under outer ear, middle ear, and inner ear, because you can get odd one out of type of questions, and also with this you can also find some MCQs associated. So just make sure that you're concentrating on this one. So let's get started. So before I start, let me introduce myself. I'm Vani Kari, biology educator at Unacademy. I'm an engineer with bachelor's and master's degree in biotechnology and a B.Ed degree. Also a founder of a startup where I grow microgreens by vertical farming technology. So here is the topic that we are going to cover today. So that is the parts of the human ear, and we'll also try to cover this mechanism of hearing. So mainly when we talk of ear, so it is always the function of the ear when we say, so it is always only the hearing that comes to our mind. Yes, it is a function, and associated with that there is another function, so that is balancing. Okay, so when you are in a static condition or the dynamic, like moving, so in both of these conditions, so dynamic balance and the static balance is also done by the ear itself. Okay, so let's have a look at this. So basically we'll discuss about the function of ear. So let's have a look at the introduction. So sense organs, we have the eyes, then there is ear, there is nose, there are taste buds in the mouth. Okay, that's the whole of a skin which is there. So all of these are basically the sense organs. So we have 5 different sense organs: the eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and skin. Okay, so skin being the largest sense organ in our body. So there are specialized epithelial cells in the skin which act as a receptor. Okay, so which can sense the stimulus. So there is an external stimulus or internal stimulus, so anything that is going to bring about changes, or there is a response which can be seen. So that is mainly because of the receptor cells or the sensory cells present in these sense organs. Okay, so here the neurons from sense organs, and you can always find, so let's say eye. Okay, so when we talk of a eye, so eye is connected to your brain, so basically through a nerve. So there is a optic nerve. Okay, so if we are talking about your ear, so there is a auditory nerve connecting to your brain. So if we are talking about the nose, olfactory nerve is there. So as such, there are neurons from the sense organs which are connected to the brain, and they pass these signals from the environment. So that is exactly the stimulus. Okay, so stimulus is perceived by a particular sensory neuron which is present at the receptor, and conveying of impulses done to the brain. So that is mainly the central nervous system, the brain, or the spinal cord. I hope you all are understanding. Yes, are you all getting this? Any doubt? Fine, so let's continue with this. So moving on to the next part here, so that is functions and the parts of the ear. So human ear has 2 sensory functions. So mainly there is a hearing function, and maintaining the balance of the body is another function associated with the ear. Okay, so now ear, when we talk of, so this is divided into 3 parts. So there is outer ear, middle ear, and there is inner ear. Okay, here specifically you guys need to concentrate on like what part comes under the outer ear, what part of the ear comes under the middle ear, and what part of the ear comes under the inner ear. So this is very important. A lot of questions can come from this part, and specifically the working also, and also the structure of ear can also be asked for diagram. So So you need to know from sense organs chapter, just make sure that you are concentrating on these parts. So specifically the diagram of ear and also the diagram of eye. So that is from sense organ chapter, and also the defects associated with the eye. Okay. So let's have a look at this part now. So that is the outer ear. So outer ear, as you can see, what all is included in outer ear. Let's see. So this is basically the pinna. Okay. So you see the one which is here. So this is pinna. All right. So pinna which is there, or the earlobe is there. So continuity from this. So basically we just move around and we try to collect the sound waves if something is not audible. So basically pinna as such will help in collecting that particular sound wave. So sound wave, like I'm moving a particular direction, so we are going to collect the sound wave. So once the sound wave is taken, so this will enter the auditory canal, right? So you can see this canal which is in continuity with the pinna. So this is the ear canal or the auditory canal, and you can see here what is written. So this is eardrum. So now this is the auditory. One second. So let me just erase that part so that you can see clearly. Okay. So since the labeling was done, so let me just show you this. Okay. So now you can see this part. So this is basically the ear canal. Okay. So ear canal, at the end of the ear canal, what is present? You see this part. So this part is basically the eardrum or the tympanum. Okay. So this eardrum can also be called as the tympanum, and the tympanum is basically attached to the middle ear now. So under outer ear part, so there comes the pinna and the auditory canal as well as the eardrum, or the eardrum when we mention, so it is the tympanum. Okay. So all these parts come under the outer ear. So now moving on to this middle ear. So let's have a look at this. So consists of pinna and external auditory meatus, auditory canal, ear canal. So all of these are the same thing. So external auditory meatus extends. So this is meatus extend inward up to the tympanic membrane. So that tympanic membrane is nothing but the tympanum. So it is a membranous structure. So tympanum is nothing but a membranous structure, and that we call as the eardrum as well. Okay. So this is the outer ear part, and in the middle ear, so there are three ossicles that you can find. So there are small bones. Ossicles are nothing but these tiny bones which you can find in each of these ears. So there are three tiny bones here in this ear. There are three tiny bones here in this ear. Okay. So those bones are basically the malleus, incus and stapes. And here when we mention about the malleus, so malleus can also be called as hammer. So this is hammer. Incus is basically the anvil. So hammer, anvil, and this one is stirrup. So lot of times they would ask you to give the biological terms for these three ear ossicles. So they can mention hammer, anvil, stirrup, or they may not mention. So make sure that you know every alternate name which is given in your book. Okay. So they can ask you to give a biological names of these three ear ossicles which are there. So you need to mention. So it is for hammer, the biological term is malleus. For anvil, it is incus, and for stapes, it is stirrup. Okay. So these increase the efficiency of transmission of sound waves to the inner ear. Yes, any doubt till this part? So they increase the efficiency of transmission of sound waves to the inner ear. What exactly is happening then? So let's have a look at this. I'll just draw the diagram and show you. So now this is the pinna. Okay. So pinna is there, and there is an auditory canal over here. At the end you can find the tympanum. Okay, so attached to this tympanum, so now this is going to form what? This will form the outer ear part. So this one is outer ear. Okay, so then there is inner ear that we need to consider. So let's have a look at the inner ear. So inner ears, as you can see in this diagram clearly, so they have given a hammer, so there is an anvil and there is a stirrup. So let's say this, yeah, so now this part what you see, so this is one is hammer. Okay, so the hammer, which can also be called as malleus, so then you can consider this to be the incus part here. So there is a incus, so malleus, incus, and there is a stapes. Okay, so this one is the stapes, which is situated on the oval window. So let me just label them all. So this is malleus. Okay, and this one is incus, this one is stapes. Okay, and this one is oval window. So there is a oval window that you can see, and associated with that below you can find that it will be a round window. So I'll just label that right now. So this one is the round window. Okay, so then in order to connect, so there is, there is one particular tube called as Eustachian tube. Okay, so the one that I have drawn with the blue in color, so this, all this part come under middle ear. So these are all middle ear parts. Okay, so when we mention middle ear, so middle ear is basically, just a second, yeah, so middle ear is basically consists of malleus, incus, stapes, oval window, round window, as well as this Eustachian tube. So let me just label this as well. So this is a Eustachian tube, which has a function in equalizing the pressure on both the sides of the ear. So that is the outer ear as well as the middle ear. So equalizing is done so that the eardrum can vibrate freely. So free vibration of eardrum or the tympanum can occur if and only if, so there is a equalized pressure difference. One second, so let me just label this one as well. So this is pinna. Okay, and this is what? This is ear canal or auditory canal or auditory meatus also can be called. And this is what? This is basically the eardrum part. So this one is eardrum, which can also be called as a tympanum. Okay, so now here with respect to that, so you can see there is a oval window. So let's continue with, so oval window or round window, so these are nothing but the membranous structure. So here these are basically the membranous structures here. Okay, so they are covered by a thin membrane will be there, and in continuity with that, so you can find there is maybe, which should I go with this? Maybe I can go with somewhat greenish. Okay, so now here in continuity you can find there is a cochlea. Okay, so continuity from this oval window is the cochlea. So cochlea is semicircular, so cochlea part when we mention, so it is spiral in nature, not semicircular. So semicircular canal is totally different, so I'll just explain that as well. So now this is the cochlea here. Okay, so cochlea is spiral in nature, just like a snail shell, and it is 2.5 turns. So in the basilar membrane, so there is an organ of corti. So it consists of those sensory cells. So let me just label this. Here it is. Just a second. So here you see this membrane. So this membrane is basically the basilar membrane. So this is basilar membrane. Okay, so basilar membrane is there, so located onto this basilar membrane, so you can find there are organ of corti. Okay, so this is now the organ of corti if we mention. So this is going to be a hairy cell. Okay, so these are basically the hairy cells. So this is the organ of corti. So we can just label this to be a organ of corti, and connecting from this organ of corti, so there is a auditory canal. So now here in this case, so there is a opening. So let me make a opening here, just a second. So you can see this is a opening, and through which where there is a formation of utriculus and sacculus, you can see. So now this part, if we consider this to be the sacculus part, okay, so sacculus part has got certain sensory cells. So let me just make certain sensory cells here as such, okay, and then continuity over here. So there you can find the utriculus part. So let me just label this one to be a utriculus and sacculus. So here in utriculus also you can find certain sensory cells there. So let me just make some sensory cells there as well. So then you can find there are this particular semicircular canals which are arranged at right angles to each other, having the ampulla region. So this is the ampulla region now, okay. So this is expanded end of one of this particular end which is there, so that we call as ampulla, okay. So now here this particular semicircular canal, you can see, so this is a semicircular canal, and the semicircular canal, the ends which are like broadened or widened, so that we call as the ampulla. So ampulla region is the one which is having lot of sensory cells, okay. So here you can find many of the sensory cells. So now you studied that. So there is a outer ear part, and you know what all parts come under middle ear as well. So let's discuss about the inner ear. So now under the inner ear, just a second. Okay, so now this is the ampulla region having certain sensory cell. So let's have a look at this. So now this part, what is labeled here, so let me just label this part as well. So now this part, what you see, so this is the inner ear part. So under inner ear, so you can find the cochlea, okay. So the cochlea is which one? This part itself is cochlea, okay. So this we call as cochlea. So there is a cochlea, and you can find there is an organ of corti onto the basilar membrane of the cochlea, and there you can find at the top of this cochlea you can find there is a utriculus and sacculus, which is leading to the right angle, or which are arranged right angle to each other or in a XYZ plane. So that is basically the semicircular canal having a role. So semicircular canal is having a role with respect to what? It is having a role in dynamic balance of the body, and here the organ of corti which are there, so these are having a function of hearing, and this particular utricular and saccular sensory cells, so these are having a function of static balance of the body, okay. So static balance is associated with this. So now coming under all this structure, so you need to know these parts, and you should be able to draw this diagram, because they can ask you to draw the structure of the ear, and all these labelings need to be there. And further, if we are looking at the structure, so let me just go through this. So you can have a look at the structure here. So the inner ear is filled with the fluid, and this inner ear can also be called as the membranous labyrinth, and the fluid is basically the labyrinth. So it is divided into two, bony labyrinth and membranous labyrinth. So you can find, so there is a dynamic equilibrium which can be maintained, so that is by semicircular canal, and this is a sectional view of the cochlea. So if we just make a cut, so let me just explain it to you again. So let's say this is the cochlea now, not that, one second. Now here is the cochlea, so you can find there is a cochlea, right? So this is the cochlea, and what exactly cochlea consists of? So it has three channels, okay. So let me just maybe show it to you like this. So there is 1, 2, 3. So the first and the third canals, what are there? Okay, so they consist of there is one more at the back. So they consist of perilymph. So there is a perilymph that is present in 1 and 3. Okay. So in the second one, what do you find? So there is a endolymph. So the working of the ear based on the sound waves that enter, so it is basically there is a kind of vibration that is set in the fluid. So now let me just explain it to you with diagram. So now as soon as the sound wave reaches the pinna, it will reach the auditory canal, so it will hit this tympanum, okay, that is the eardrum. So this eardrum will start to oscillate, okay, so it will a kind of a vibration is set up here in the eardrum. So since this eardrum is attached to the malleus, okay, so now there is an amplification of sound wave that is going to happen. So how exactly that will how exactly the sound wave is going to amplify? So amplification is done by three of these ear ossicles. So these ear ossicles are having a function of amplification of these sound waves, where they are going to multiply that sound, okay. So now here with respect to that, so sound wave is going to hit the eardrum. So eardrum is set in a kind of vibration. So since this eardrum is attached to the malleus, incus as well as stapes, so these ear ossicles will also start moving, okay. So when these also start moving, so there is an amplification of the sound is done, which is conveyed. So you can see that the stapes is in continuity with the oval window, okay. So this one, now from air medium, the sound vibrations are moving into this fluid medium. So you know that inside the cochlea you can find endolymph as well as perilymph, okay. So with that vibration that is going to set up in the that is cochlea along with perilymph as well as endolymph. So there is a vibration which is set at the basilar membrane, and the basilar membrane consists of organ of corti, okay. So since the organ of corti, which are basically the sensory cells present there, so what will happen? So this fluid vibrations are sensed by this sensory cell, which is conveyed to the brain, that is through the auditory nerve. So let me maybe we can show an auditory nerve here itself as such, which is connecting to the brain. So from each one of these, so there are nerves which are connecting to the brain. So this is the auditory nerve if we consider. So same way from all of these, okay, not just from here. So maybe we could have drawn here. So from each one of these, the hair-like structure is gonna, or the, not the hair-like structures, it is the axon or the nerve fiber. So nerve fiber is emerging from each of these sensory cells over here, okay. So they'll join the auditory nerve, and that is how the hearing and the body balancing function is done. So with respect to that, you can find the structure which is given here. So this diagram you need to draw, and a more specified diagram they have given in your book. So if you just draw this one, it is enough. So just make sure that you are drawing eardrum. So this malleus, incus, stapes, then there is oval window, okay. So at the opening of this oval window, you can find there is a sacculus, there is a utriculus, so there is a semicircular canal. So this widened region is the ampulla. So arising from all of this, so below you can find there is a cochlea over here, okay. And arising from all of this, so there are nerves which is basically connecting to the brain. So this is the auditory nerve. So this you need to draw, okay. And here it is already clearly given. So 1 and 3, the first canal is called as vestibular canal, the third one is a tympanal canal, so second one is a median canal. So median canal is where you can find there is a tectoral membrane, or we can say basilar membrane, onto which the organ of corti is placed, okay. And these are the organ of corti are nothing but the sensory hair like cells, where they are connecting the auditory nerve fibers later on to this auditory nerve, right. And I hope the functioning. So with respect to functioning, here some of the, just a second, let me just check this. So I can give you some polls with respect to that. So here some questions are there. So if you guys know, you can answer them. Yes. So can you see this? Is the screen visible? I hope there's no issue. Okay. So now the cochlea is square shaped and looks like a snail shell. So whether this is true or false. Okay. So what is mentioned here? The cochlea is square shaped. So is it square shaped? So you can tell me. I'm just reading your comments. Okay. So cochlea, as you have observed, so this is a spiral one. Okay. So it is basically a spiral structure. Okay. And this spiral structure, when we consider, so this is a snail type. Okay, so we can say partially true and partially half, but anyway that option is not there. So it looks like a snail shell, that's right. It is not square, but this is spiral. Okay, so that's the reason we can go with the false here. All right, so malleus can also be called as, what do we call this malleus as? So I told you guys, you need to remember these biological terms for each of these ear ossicles. So there are ear ossicles when we mention. So you can find there are, one second. So these are the ear ossicles. So you can find three types mainly. So the normal names or the regular names which are called. So this is hammer, there is anvil, and there is stirrup. So hammer, anvil, and stirrup is there. So malleus can also be called as hammer. Okay, so this is the right answer. So these are the biological terms. So the one that I'm going to write now, so these are the biological terms, and all these ear ossicles come under which part of the ear? So all of these come under the middle ear part. So this comes under middle ear. So hammer is called as the malleus. Okay, so this one is malleus, this one is incus, and this one is stapes. So these are the biological terms which are asked regularly in your exams. Okay, and also they can ask a what is that question? Or one out, where you need to know the category. Okay, so that is the category to which these parts belong. So that you need to know. So dash collect the sound waves. Okay, and conduct it through the external auditory canal. So dash collect the sound waves. What exactly is collecting the sound waves? And conduct it through the external auditory canal. Yes, any of you? So what is connecting to the external auditory canal? So there is a pinna. Okay, so this pinna is there and collecting the sound waves and conducting. So where is the auditory canal? So this one, what you see, so this can be called as auditory canal. Okay, or this can even be called as ear canal, or this can even be called as a meatus. So auditory meatus. Okay, so just make sure that again you remember every alternate names which are mentioned in your book, because you know, so if they give you auditory meatus, so you might keep thinking whether the auditory meatus is auditory nerve or auditory canal. So just know that there are alternate names which are mentioned and they are going to help you a lot. So same with respect to the sense organ, where you are going to study about the structure of eye. So there are a lot of alternative terms. So let's say yellow spot is there. So for yellow spot there is a fovea centralis which is given, and again the macula lutea is given. So you need to know all the alternative names which are mentioned, because they can mention fovea centralis also, or the macula lutea. So not just the yellow spot, and they can ask you the structure, I mean, like, you know, just the functional arrangement, structural and functional arrangement which is done. So that can also be asked. And with respect to that, like, you know, location explain, so those kind of questions can also be there. So just make sure that whatever parts are mentioned, and if there is a location, make sure that you are writing the exact location of those parts which are asked. So because while in your exam, so they precisely mention, so it is the exact location. Okay, so exact location when we mention, so you need to write the one which is given in your book. So the ICSE evaluation is done that way, and especially with respect to location, they expect you to include lot of keywords, the keywords which are there in your book, so that needs to be highlighted. Okay, all right, so I think there is one more. Yeah, so air pressure on either side of our eardrum, so this is equalized by, so on either side of eardrum is equalized by ear ossicle, eustachian tube, pinna and anvil. Hi Bhavish, I'm good, how are you? Okay, so this is basically eustachian tube. Okay, so air pressure on either side of the eardrum is equalized by the eustachian tube, which is basically like, you know, connecting this throat part to the ear part. Okay, so that is the eustachian tube, and equalizing the pressure with the outer ear and the middle ear is done by this eustachian tube. So this eustachian tube is basically a part of the middle ear. Okay, so this is a part of middle ear. All right, okay, so we are done with all the questions, and also I hope the structure and function of the ear and you know, associated function like hearing and balance is also clear. So balancing was done by the sacculus and utriculus, that is static balance, and the dynamic balance is done by the semicircular canal. So I hope all this is clear. So you can, if you guys have any doubts, so you can just search my telegram, like, you know, telegram name. So you can just, on telegram you can just search Vani Kari ICSE class 9 and 10, so you'll find my telegram group, so you can just join in there. Okay, and any doubts how you have, so you can just send maybe a picture there or maybe the question, and I can just solve it for you guys there. Okay, all right then, so see you all in the next session. Thank you. So subscribe to our new channel, so that is ICSE and ISC Masters. Click on this bell icon to get notified about the session. Like and share the video, and if you need this PDF, yes, I can send it on my telegram link. Okay, so see you all in the next session. Bye bye everyone, take care, thank you all.